Thank you, Jimmy, and welcome everyone. So, 4 years ago, I told you we were going to scale. And I think we've kept our promise a little bit. And I'll say a little bit because it's nice, 100,000 transactions per second. It's okay. I know Steve gets excited. It's okay. What I want to do is I want to add a 0 every year. I want next year to have him talking about 1 million. And then 4 years ago when I told you we would scale, I want to do the same, except I want 4 zeros. So I want you to think about this and then think about how we're going to change the cancer that is the internet because of Silicon Valley. Not the old Silicon Valley when they had silicon, but today's cancerous, evil, Twitter-based Silicon Valley that people don't even realize is corrupting everything in society as they own you. They prostitute you for your data. We're going to give your data back. In the next 4 years, we're going to give you the foundation so that there will never be a Twitter again. Ever. There won't be a Facebook. We're going to destroy their business model. This is why they hate me, because they understand it. We are going to give you the ability to own your information. So if you want something like a micro-blogging platform like Twitter, you own your feed. And you can move to a new front end if you don't like Twitter or whatever else. If you don't like the guys who aren't giving you fast enough access, who aren't filtering the trolls, who aren't doing whatever you want to have access for, whether it's free or paid, selling your information or anything else, then you choose to move and your data stays with you. So we're going to start building this out as what some people call the distributed fractal database. In the white paper, I talked about the ability for SPV and pruning. That goes far beyond user level. Everyone's starting to get this concept. I can keep user data, my data. I can validate my transaction. But we can also make nodes that act as content delivery networks. They can hold some information. They can have fractional parts in different locations of everything. So the blockchain doesn't require that every single node has every block at all point. So we can distribute this. And from that, new companies will evolve that will give you access to your data faster, your data more securely, your data under your terms. And this is something that Silicon Valley have taken from you. When you're on Twitter, they own you. When you're on Google, they own you. You are their slave. They want you to feel empowered because you're not. So we're going to help you build systems that will map and index all of this information so that we can start building bigger and better things. So we have, not infinitely, but unbounded. I don't like the word infinite personally because I don't believe in it. Unbounded means it just goes forever, but forever takes a long time to get to. So not all transactions need to be on all nodes. There's this big section on pruning. I know people like to say that they've read my white paper, but maybe one day someone will, outside of this sort of camp. Maybe even one of the BTC guys who host it will actually read it. That would be nice. So we're going to have verifiable components for you. Something so that everyone can have the data they want provably. We're going to allow you to basically have sections of your own in different areas for different corporations, all securely managed. Bringing back some old technologies that people have forgotten about, such as broadcast encryption, but done in a better way with better keys, better structures, not the horrible things that we had from the 80s and 90s for satellite television to stop people stealing a free broadcast, but ways of actually transmitting data across to many people. Multicast transmissions in edge networks, so that we can have Internet of Things devices that receive transactions and are monitored and controlled, but nobody knows where they are. They won't have an IP address in the traditional sense. They will just watch. They can actually be passive, and they can take passive controls and only connect to the network properly, rather than just sniffing like a sniffer on an Ethernet network in the background, when they want to send a transaction and then disappear again. This will enable completely, utterly secure transmissions. Yes, I can see people with funny-looking faces, and we used to do this in the old days. You would sit there with TCP dump, and you would sit there watching for commands. We're going to do it again. We're going to bring back some of these old things that work. So we're going to allow you to have different layers of data. And as we get in the next 4 years, and give Steve lots more work, another 10,000 times what we're already getting to, and he loves it, we're going to need to store all this. And all these horrible servers that I used to play with in the past that Stefan sold off on me, or dumped half of them, I think. We're going to build better versions of that. Not just a single node, but interconnected, parallelized systems that enable processing of individual sections of data. We won't have problems with the hash rate costing a lot of money, because we'll be able to build it anywhere that's efficient. The whole nature of the double hashing system of Bitcoin allows us to actually put everything where it's most efficient. We can have a content delivery network built on a pruned SPV system sitting in London, and another one in New York, and another one in Chicago. And separately, miners could have hash farms where they have, in the middle of Sahara, lots and lots of solar panels, where they could have wave machines, where they could have hydrogen sort of power from thermal energy. All of this then sold, because you don't need to put the electricity where it's least efficient, where it's not needed. With Bitcoin, we can put it wherever it's most efficient in the world. And we can take all of that wasted geothermal energy, and there's lots of that. We can take the wasted wind power. When I went up to Scotland to look at these things earlier in the year, probably 1/3 of the windmills were actually going. We can take them 24/7 and use their power so that they're actually efficient. And the reason we don't have a lot of these alternatives right now is there's not an efficiency of scale. We can do things like actually creating a hydrogen economy, like some people don't like, but by the way, it actually does work. And the day after Mr. Musk said it will never work, Toyota released one. Sorry, but no one seems to notice these things. So if you own your own data and you can shard it across multiple nodes, and you can control it, and you can move from server to server, you have your own digital sovereignty. You have your own information. You own and control it now. And we can do this securely. If you don't like Twitter, leave and take all your data, all your friends, all your connectivity, and tell them where to stick it. That simple. And guess what? All your friends will be connected. All the people who want to see you will still get to see you. If they don't present the front end, and rather than having their very slow, it's going to slowly over the next 100 years actually go to the next version of web platform, terrible front end, hey, change. So that's what we want to create. We want to have a fully atomic system where single versions of your data can be out there, where real people can be verified pseudonymously. So one of the bits we can start doing with this is, if you're on a platform where you don't want people to know who you are, but you want to prove that you're real and that you live in London and ... you can. We will set it up so that you can then say, I don't want you to know who I am. I want to have a bit of a chat with you without giving too much information, but I'm definitely a male living in London, this age range, and yes, I've got a degree. Can't do that right now. In the next few years, we will. We're going to have consistency. All the changes will be recorded, which means we know all the integrity of our data. We know when someone's got a new degree. We know when someone's got a new job. Not that they've made it up, that they actually do. We have durability because when we start making nodes everywhere for content delivery, not just mining nodes, but actually systems that start distributing data that people want, where they want, how they want, it really makes it difficult to attack the network. When we have IoT devices that don't even act on the network, they just watch, and they use covert channels, and all these things the bad guys used to use that I used to do work on, we can use them for good. We're going to take their technology and we're going to make it work for us, and we're going to make it harder for them to do wrong things. So we're going to make computational queries that you can basically outsource, that you can sell. And we're going to make it so that no one's even going to care about this word scaling in 4 years' time. Because once we get to this point, and we are going to scale at this rate, who cares? When we're at the point where we start going 1 billion transactions, 1 trillion transactions, people will be going, that's boring. We're not using it. Who cares? And once they don't care, perfect. When it becomes boring, when it becomes plumbing, and I've talked about this many, many times, that's when it's important. Because how many people here today think they could live without plumbing anymore? Not many of us, are there? I mean, there's still large chunks of the world that don't have plumbing. Don't want to go there. I don't want to live in a house without a toilet, without a sink, without a tap. And in the future, people are going to be not wanting to live in an environment where they don't have connections to the internet via BSV. And I'm saying that the right way. Where they have access to everyone because their data's there. Where if they have a hard drive failure, who cares? Where they have recovery of data. Where they have the ability, no matter what, to get their information unencrypted, where there are always ways, where they have the ability, if, say, someone does a ransomware attack, to get their money back. And all of this is going to be part of what we're building. So we're going to allow people to start hosting data in a completely novel new way. Not the way that you see it now, not, as I've said, the Silicon Valley, we're going to own everything, sell you to advertising, basically bend you over the barrel and have our way with you. We're going to change this completely. We're going to give people responsibility for themselves. We won't need European data laws. We won't need GDPR. I sat through a course on that just the other day. There are better ways of doing this. If people own their data, not the tech companies, you, then it's up to you to decide if you want to hand it to another person. You get to have a little bit of responsibility. Unlike many in Silicon Valley who want to paternalize everything and keep you children, I want to see you all grow up to be adults, where you take responsibility for your lives. So the Bitcoin blockchain is going to grow. We're going to start building systems in the next few years, starting now that we've scaled, where we do the equivalent of SQL, the equivalent of NoSQL, Cassandra. We're going to map all these different indexed links to data, and we're going to make one universal global database. Not a world computer, like people say, a network system, the world. We are going to do one global connected data source. Because when we have one global connected data source, that's when it's atomic. That's when we really know what we have, what we're storing. When we can securely do all this, when we can set people up with unclonable devices, which exist right now, we can securely give access. We can put backup strategies. The reason we have all these script things that people sit there going, ooh, that looks too complex, your script will be too big. Good. Look at it. Right now, you install something on Windows. It's not 1K anymore. Get over it. Windows, it's gigabytes. And you're talking about, oh no, that's a 10K script. Whoopee. I mean, my Pac-Man machine's more complex than that right now. I mean, it's time to get out of the 70s. Pac-Man was nice. It's had its day. Let's build something bigger. Let's build something more robust. Let's give people back their data. Let's give them control of their life. So this is why I'm saying Silicon Valley is the cancer. Because they want to take you. That's how they make their money. They want you. They want to say how wonderful and beautiful you are so that they can get you to come on their platform and click more. There are whole teams in Facebook whose jobs are just there to keep you addicted, to keep you clicking, because every click makes them money. They are there to dumb you down. When the movie Idiocracy was actually filmed, the guy thought, this might be America in 200 years. He did an interview recently where he said he's really sad because he didn't think he was making a documentary. And it's going that way. And it's Twitter, and it's Facebook, and it's all the other social media that they're trying to drive us into. Not so that you own your data, not so that you manage your friends, not so that you can block people who troll you, not so that you can decide if someone is attacking you or harassing your children to get rid of them, so that you can control that. They don't want that. They want fights. Twitter wants people to sit there and argue. They want to bring out the most vile, base human instinct and promote it. They want a demagoguery, not a democracy. We're going to bring it all back. We're going to give you control, not managing you like children, letting you be adults, letting you own your own lives and control what gets out there, what data you put out. So we want a new model of everything. Not just digital cash, not just smart contracts, which is a terrible term really because smart contracts aren't smart and they're not new. EDI came out in the 1970s. And there is nothing in smart contracts in Ethereum that isn't an EDI. Sorry. I mean, it's got special source. It's got Grondo. Grondo has electrolytes, yes. So does Ethereum. Yay. I mean, so I'm here telling you, after 4 years of telling you that we're going to scale, that we're going to keep scaling, but it's boring. Now we're going to do something more. Now we're going to totally revolutionize everything. We're going to have all these nodes set up with different areas of transactions, different areas of data, and not even hand everything to everyone. We don't need to. You don't want to validate that guy's transaction when he's got nothing to do with your exchange. We're going to make edge devices, cluster devices, etc. And we're going to totally rebuild everything. Because I'm sick of the promises of flying cars that give us 140 more characters. I want a world where we're going to start building. where we're going to create. And we're going to give people economic freedom to do this, because if they want to go out there and contract their time, or they want to be an employee, or they want to do whatever else, it's their choice. Thank you.
So, Craig, stay here. Actually, I'm going to ask you provide a couple of audience comments and questions before we wrap up the day. The first actually really isn't a question, but I just wanted you to know that someone said, "My boyfriend is watching you and fangirling like a 13-year-old girl." You have any idea who that might be, Craig?
No, I don't know any 13-year-old girls. My daughter's older than that now.
Yeah, and I know she's not fangirling over you at all.
Not unless I give her something.
She doesn't like it when you talk about Bitcoin at all.
No. If I gave her shoes.
Yeah, you gave her shoes, but she likes that the Bitcoin buys her shoes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, here's a more serious question, which is, one of the topics that has not come up in terms of a possible use case for BSV is political data. And someone wants to know, well, why aren't we talking about political data, especially given the types of things that need to be saved and collected, expenses, revenues, voting laws? There has been an attempt to create a blockchain voting application on BSV down in Australia. But what's your thoughts about that, especially given all the controversies we had in our last US presidential election about the accuracy of election tallies?
Voting is hard. So some people know, but I was on the technical team for the New South Wales Electoral Commission and helped implement iVote many years ago. It wasn't rolled out extensively because voting is hard. It was given remotely to soldiers because, well, there was a level of trust in that the guy on the naval ship wouldn't sort of be bumping off his shipmate to make a vote or something silly. There were disabled people because we need to give them access. But opening to the general population is difficult because we are missing something. We're missing identity and ability to prove who did things. We can start building that, but we haven't got there yet. And I know there are people doing this. If we start attesting on-chain, we prove our identity on-chain. We build up, and identity is not just a driver's license, contrary to what people think. Identity is your life. If you own your data, all this stuff that I'm talking about will enable identity on-chain privately. It will be, this is me going to uni. This is me in my job. This is me, etc. That's your identity. It's your life. It's your friends. It's your neighbors. It's your house. It's your kids. It's you. That's identity. And that's what we need to start saving. Not Facebook owning it, you. And it won't work on Facebook and Twitter because when they own it, there's a problem. When you own your own information, when you control it all, it's different. So
I'm going to ask you a question for myself. When you were inventing Bitcoin, the social media applications that have taken rise today, such as you've mentioned, Facebook and Twitter, were in their very nascent stages, or some didn't even exist at all. So what inspired you to have the idea of creating a better internet, which we now call the MetaNet? And why did you think that was possible with the Bitcoin blockchain that you created?
Well, I wasn't actually sure, to be completely honest.
No, really? You're not sure about something?
Well, I hoped.
Yeah, okay.
But
good.
like everything, you don't know. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say it was perfect, I did all this stuff, and I just knew it was going to work. Well, I threw a lot of money at it, and I hoped.
I think this is the first time I've ever heard you say that something you conceived was not perfect.
Yeah.
Mark this moment down in history. Is someone recording this to the blockchain right now? Because please record this moment. Anyway, so what inspired you to think this was possible on the Bitcoin blockchain?
So going right back to the 1990s, there were always problems with the internet. Credit cards never worked securely. There was no real method, and there still isn't, apart from Bitcoin, of paying small payments. This whole thing in the front of the white paper that everyone ignores, small, casual transactions. I can't go and buy a page of a newspaper without buying a chunk right now or giving them access. I want to get a page at a time for a cent. I don't want horrible paywalls that take way too much money because Visa wants 30% of my money. That's not going to work. On the other hand, if I can read only the thing I want, better.
One article at a time instead
Yep.
of a monthly subscription or annual subscription. 2 more questions, then we'll wrap up. What's the first bottleneck to open up to make the next 10 times scaling move?
Okay, so more machines, more communication. The reason 2014, 15, I was playing with sort of backplane communications, etc., InfiniBand, all these things, is that's what we need to really get to. What Steve's been playing with is good for where he is. We need to now move away from internet connectivity and have true native backplane connectivity between some of these devices that are talking at wire speed. It's doable. It was doable 5 years ago, so it's doable now. If people can get 100,000 machines, and there are TN2 and 3, 100,000 machines talking in nanoseconds, we can do this, and we can. But it's a new layer of hardware abstraction. It's not just the typical, I'm going to buy myself a Raspberry Pi. We actually need specialized machines now, and we're going to move to that. So just like ASICs with specialized machines, we'll have specialized backplanes and change the nature of servers.
We're getting a lot more questions in, so if you want to hear more from Dr. Wright, clap. Otherwise, okay. Enough clapping. Here's a good question. What cold wallet would you recommend for BSV? I already know what your answer to this is going to be.
I think something needs to be built better. The honest truth is, if we were to set up a well-constructed near-field type device, such as a YubiKey, programmed properly, that would do a base key that is never used. What should then happen, using, just to not hopefully lose too many people, use the functionality of ECDSA to have an additive key. Create, using a HMAC function, a new address that is shared, add the two together, sign with the joint key. And that, no one's doing that in hardware right now, but it is doable. We've got IP on that already. So if we can do it, that should be created. That will enable a secure device that every single time you want a key, it'll be new. Every possible transaction, none of this stuff with Ledger saying we can't support, any transaction would be doable.
This is a really good question related to the concept of having our personal data available on chain. How do you get all your information back once it's already become readily available and sold?
So I mentioned broadcast encryption. There are revocable key systems in broadcast encryption because they work on multiple key layer. This was actually quite common during the days of satellite transmission, because what you would do is you would sell the satellite box, and then only certain people would get access to one channel, only certain people would get another access, and you could revoke it over time. That's why I'm saying we're going to bring back some old encryption that most people on the internet have just gone, we don't want broadcast to lots of people anymore. This is the internet. We can go one-to-one. But we can use the same key structures so that we can now do one-to-many broadcast structures where someone can actually revoke, and there's a revocable key structure.
Are offline transactions possible in the future?
Depends on what you mean by offline transactions. I mean, yes, I should be able to not connect to the internet and give someone a signed transaction directly and have them at their leisure send it, in which case that's offline. But someone eventually has to send it to the network. It doesn't need to be instant.
Got it. Just a couple more and then we'll wrap up. Here's a question from me. Today, the country of El Salvador adopted legislation that was proposed by the president and enacted by its parliament legislature today to have the country require that Bitcoin be recognized as legal tender. So merchants, for example, must accept Bitcoin as legal tender, as well as other people accepting payments. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Wright?
Well, it was Nice having BTC on exchanges for a little while, but won't be much longer.
Why?
Because as soon as two people start trying to actually do anything together in El Salvador, the whole thing's going to fall apart. That, and the fees are more than most of the people there are earning.
Right.
So,
how would this work with the BTC fees? If you're trying to
well,
pay for
basically, they're
something
going
in
to
El
go
Salvador.
higher and higher as the congestion builds up. And it's going to be a real, I'm sorry, I have to say this, shit show. The only word for it is shit show. Because people who are earning a mid-level income globally, they're going to now have higher and higher fees. This is going to be, if you want to buy the bread, it's going to be like Weimar, Germany, where you have to get the wheelbarrow full of Bitcoin. Because why? Because the fees are going to go up. The bread will still be $1, but the fee to buy your bread will be $100 by the end of the day. And by tomorrow, if you don't buy it today, it'll be $200. And the day after that, and the day after that. And eventually the economy stalls, because if you make it legal tender, you have to take it. Full stop. You can sue the vendor for not taking it. Now, this means the court's going to get clogged. It's going to be, it's one of these stupid economic decisions that morons in government who've never taken an economics class, even in undergraduate, let alone high school, sort of make. It's the ones who maybe work in Zimbabwe for a while.
Elizabeth Stark tweeted today that this is good news for the Lightning Network. Do you think merchants in El Salvador now will be all installing Lightning nodes?
Okay, so once again, Lightning Network is just a centralized, trusted intermediary. The Lightning Network still doesn't work. I mean, I'm promised 18 months away it will. So I'm sure 18 months from now it'll work, but for now, we have this little problem. It's not going to work. It's also fragile. It's not a robust system. If you attack a node, you can actually collapse the system. So you're going to have something where you have people who, well, maybe take money for taking down pipelines, and you're going to make a $1 billion system that is super fragile, that makes American pipeline companies look like super robust, no one could ever break in type organizations. And then you're going to point all the hackers who want Bitcoin everywhere at this little country who doesn't have an FBI agent who can actually do anything because they're not rich enough to recover your money.
How would you feel if El Salvador or any other country enacted a law requiring BSV to be recognized as legal tender?
I would require, I mean, I'd prefer
Requires
they
a tough, that's
yeah,
the tough,
I don't like the
Bitcoin
require.
People, right?
I would like them to say we recognize it and make it currency, but not legal tender. I don't think we should force merchants to take something if they don't want to. So yes, it would be good for my sort of back pocket, so to speak, but no, I'm not going to recommend that even. But I do think they should take something that will actually enable them to enact sort of transactions.
Elon Musk has been in the news a lot. Do you have plans for a Musk-like satellite internet? Is N-Chain Link coming to our world?
So, satellite network version 958. There was a reason why all of these things keep pulling out. It's because it's not actually viable. The timeframes even on LEO's low Earth satellites and the bandwidth are not there. If you look at one glass fiber, you get glass fiber now that can do 677 terabytes per second. You need 1 million satellites to do that. Yeah, a little bit less, but it's not going to work. We are growing and scaling, and the internet is getting more, and we're sitting there, and satellites are not scaling at Moore's law. Satellites are doing way less than doubling. Satellites are going, yes, slowly up. I mean, horrible.
All right, last question, and then we wrap up. This is a good one. Do you believe humanity, Dr. Wright, can be saved from a future of idiocracy?
I certainly hope so. This is part of why I'm actually studying, I'm doing my master's in education as well at the moment. And I believe that we need to move away from the system of confusing vocational learning and education. Education is not vocational learning. It is not a job. It is not job skills. We have to get that crap out of our head. Education is not computer science. It is not any of these things. Education is virtue ethics. It is philosophy. You know, Einstein actually did philosophy. Part of the reason why people like Einstein had ideas is we taught them how to think. We didn't sit them going, oh, you can't think of anything unless there's 30 physicists in a room, because otherwise it won't be a real idea. Hello, CERN.
All right. So I'm going to end on this, which is not a question, but I'd like to read a comment that someone sent in. I think it represents the sentiments of many people in this room and many people watching outside in our virtual audience. People can't handle the truth. Thank you for always speaking it, Craig. Don't hear anyone else presenting any vision for the things you're talking about. BSV represents so much hope for so many people. All they need is this hope.
Reimagine the world's financial system. One built on being simple and fair, not one that's overcomplicated, outdated, and broken, and keeps a quarter of the world's population from accessing it. Reimagine your own finances. Do you have full visibility and control of your assets and investments? We believe there's a better way, a new future for financial services. One built on equal opportunity, where possibilities are limitless, not limited, and everyone can live the life to which they aspire. At Fabric, we're weaving a better future of finance for the billions locked out and the billions locked in. A safe, open, and fully transparent financial ecosystem built on innovative technology, where anyone can transform, hold, trade, and grow their assets, all in one accessible place. But this journey isn't ours to take alone. Are you ready to join in? To reimagine a better future with us? Where everything is digital and anything is possible. Fabric. Reimagine prosperity.
Data is double-edged. Wield it well and build your place in tomorrow. But trust it blindly and risk watching your progress crumble. Because much of the data we rely upon isn't reliable at all. At nChain, we believe in data, but we put no faith in it. Instead, we build tools that enable enterprises to trust the data upon which they rely. nChain, data without question.
Is greatness really just for a chosen few? For prodigies? For superstars? It's not planned. It's experienced by those with great support and some resilience. For those that strive to go to the edge once more, pushed and guided with excellent support. Support that provides groundbreaking technology by and for those that know it's all about velocity.
Imagine in 1997 paying for something with your watch. Remember the last time you used cash? The world has been digitized. Almost.
Cash was once seen as the last bastion for reform, but now is on the decline. Digital transactions have outcompeted hard currency since 2017 in the UK, but breakthrough bold technologies like blockchain have revolutionized more than just money.
Disruptive technologies call for disruptive lawyers, ones that don't just accept the current, but find new ways of interpreting the law. We are currently the only global law firm with a real track record in the area of Bitcoin and blockchain. We are results-driven and care only about securing the best possible result for our clients.
We trace the supposedly untraceable. We pioneer the future of law. We deliver new solutions. We are law changers.
The biggest sickness in healthcare isn't a disease. It's not a bacteria or a virus. It's the silence. See, the data we need to combat diseases, to stop suffering, it's not waiting to be uncovered. It's stuck behind closed doors in stubborn silos. The healthcare industry has the data to improve our lives in untold ways, but no one communicates. And in that silence, countless lives are lost. That's why at EHR Data, we're building the largest ever shared data set of human health. And it won't belong to a hospital, government, a corporation. It will belong to the rightful owner of your healthcare data, you. We're merging healthcare records with blockchain to finally put you in control. Because your data doesn't belong on private servers. It should be in your hands in service to your health. The greatest sickness may be silence, but the silence stops when you have a voice. EHR Data. Own your health.
Different backgrounds, diverse geographies, and disparate experiences can all inspire ideas that lead to breakthroughs. And with blockchain, we've barely scratched the surface on its potential. So what's next for this breakthrough technology, and where can it take us? That's where you come in. Learn to leverage your creativity and harness the power of blockchain technology to tackle the biggest challenges of today and opportunities of tomorrow. Discover how you can make your ideas a reality with BSV, the only blockchain that scales unbounded, offers a stable platform with world-class security, and the support of a global community of experienced, knowledgeable developers. Join the 4th BSV Virtual Hackathon, and let's build the future on the blockchain.